Hey everyone, welcome to Turning Tables. I'm your host, Krista Lepore, and in this show we're going to take a behind-the-scenes look at what really happens in restaurants. I am a restaurant service expert with 20 years of experience in the industry, so we're going to talk about all things front of the house, back of the house, dining dilemmas for guests, and tricks of the trade. I want everyone from owners to staff to paying guests to all have the best dining experience possible. So pour yourself a drink, sit back, and let's talk service. All right. Hi, welcome to Turning Tables. I am your host, Krista Lepore, and this is the show where we show you the behind-the-scenes look at what really happens in restaurants. Today, my guest is, disclaimer, my friend, Hannah Rose. And Hannah has been working in New York City restaurants for the past 8 years, and she's worked with such notables as celebrity chef Mark Murphy. I brought her on today specifically to talk about what happens in restaurants regarding maitre d's and hosts, because I think it's a really underappreciated position at a restaurant, and I don't think people understand how important that position really is. And also, I think it will sort of alleviate a lot of guest questions, like when they walk into a restaurant and they see that the restaurant's empty, why they can't have a seat, and all of those fun things. And so, Hannah, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. So I gave everybody a tiny bit of your background so that you worked with Chef Mark Murphy. What I think is really amazing about you is that you're no longer with Chef Mark. However, before you left, you actually created an entire training manual for maitre d's and hosts that they still use at his restaurants today. Yeah. So you definitely have left your mark, which is really wonderful.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, I did.
You can talk to me. Yes, I don't bite. Yeah, which I think is great, because that means that what you were doing was extraordinary, to the point where he wants to make sure going forward, everything he does is done your way. It also makes his job easier when you have a pro who knows what they're doing, right?
Yeah, it helps. It does help a little bit.
Right. So let's talk about, and I touched on this a little bit, the thing about hosts and maitre d's and why they're very important is because they are a guest's very first contact with the restaurant. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely. You're the first face they see when they walk in the door. You're the first person hopefully you're the first person they talk to. It's that first point of contact, and it's super, super important, because first impressions, as we all know, are everything.
Right, of course. And even if they're making the reservation online through OpenTable or Resy or whatnot, at some point, a human being is going to call and confirm the reservation. So there's still a point of contact, even if they are using a reservation system. Sometimes the reservation system is configured by the maitre d' specifically. So that is still a point of contact, right?
Absolutely.
So let's do some myth busters. Let's call it that.
Okay.
So when I walk into a restaurant and it's 5:00 and the restaurant is empty, I don't have a reservation, and I want to be seated, and the maitre d' or the host tells me they're booked. Explain that to me.
So essentially,
because I'm looking at an empty restaurant.
Right. And I understand that. And it feels, as a maitre d', I can honestly tell you, it feels really ridiculous telling someone that I can't seat them when I clearly had like 30 tables available.
Right.
But if you haven't made a reservation, and I genuinely am booked within the next hour, I have all of those tables filling up, I can't give the table away, because if I do, then someone that has made the reservation and is expecting to come in at 5:15 and sit down won't have their table, and then they have to wait when they were the one that planned ahead and made the reservation ahead of time. And more than likely, they have tickets to a show, or they're going somewhere after. And so it really throws the whole thing off.
Right. It's sort of like that Seinfeld episode with the reservations on the car. The reservation holds the car.
Yeah.
So in this case, the reservation holds the table. And I can't give that table away to somebody else just because you're standing in front of me. I have to honor the reservation over everything else.
Correct. But the flip side of that would be, or at least what I used to do when I was maitre d', we had a 15-minute grace period, which is actually a very generous grace period, especially for New York City, I think. But we had a 15-minute grace period, and if the reservation didn't call ahead and let us know they were running late,
Mm-hmm.
and then they didn't show up in that 15 minutes, I would give the table away. And so I would let people know didn't have a reservation when they walked in. I'd be like, you know what, I'm so sorry, I can't seat you right now. However, if you're willing to wait however many minutes it was until that
the first round of reservations, right?
Like, I will have a table for you.
Right. And you always can offer them to have a seat at the bar and dine there. And if you can move them in, right? You don't ever want to just say, no, I'm sorry, I can't seat you. You always want to offer an option because you don't want to lose the business.
Right. No, we want people there. We want people to come in and see what we're about and dine and have a good time. And because, that's what the business is.
Right. That's the hospitality.
We're not there to say no and be like, oh, yeah, no, we're really full. You can't sit down with us.
Right.
We go somewhere else. Come back tomorrow. No, we want you in there. We want you in the restaurant. It's not us being mean or contrary.
Right. So now let's go back to something you talked about. Let's talk about that grace period of 15 minutes, which I think is standard in New York City restaurants. And I know outside of New York City, sometimes the grace period is up to 30 minutes, which is super generous. And I get in a major city like New York or even Chicago or Philadelphia, sometimes transit's not working well. And traffic otherwise. So do you actually hold people to that grace period? Because to me, there are some restaurants that have a grace period and don't honor it. And then there's some that have it and do. And then that can cause problems with so let's talk about that.
When I can only speak for myself when I was maitre d', honestly.
Right. But you've worked in other restaurants and you certainly have dined in a million restaurants.
Oh, of course. But I would always call ahead if I'm running late because I've done that job and I know what it entails and I know how it can cause a domino effect of chaos. So I would always call ahead as a guest if I'm running late and be like, hey, I am so sorry, I'm stuck in traffic or the subway stuck or whatever. Whatever the reason may be, but give them an ETA of like, oh, I'm going to be about 10 minutes late. I apologize, whatever. But so when I was
and the restaurant will then hold the table if you do that.
I will hold the table. If you call ahead and you let me know I am running behind, but I will be there.
Right.
I will hold the table. If I haven't heard from
you, as long as you can.
Yes.
Because sometimes that 10 minutes extends into 20 and extends into 30. Right. And then I have to let the table go.
If things are getting backed up, if I have other reservations waiting because these people before them have decided to sit and stay a little longer than they maybe should, I might have to give the table away. But if you call ahead of time, I will do my best to hold the table for you. If you don't call ahead of time and I haven't heard from you, I might wait for 5 minutes if I was feeling generous that day and we're not incredibly busy. But otherwise, everything moves very quickly. People show up and everyone has somewhere to be afterwards. Usually everyone is constantly watching their watches and, needing to be.
Yeah. I mean, people got babysitters. They have a limited time frame. I mean,
So I would try my best to just keep things moving. And so if I haven't heard from anybody, you're probably going to leave.
You got to give it away.
Right. And then if you come in 5 minutes right after I gave it away, I would always like, I'm so sorry. I didn't hear from you. I tried to call. I would call the reservations.
Right.
We were maybe a little overly nice.
But then that's great though. That's never a bad thing.
Because the numbers were listed, I would call and be like, if you didn't answer, then table's gone.
Right.
I did what I could do.
Right. Totally fine. So now let's talk about and this is my biggest pet peeve when it comes to reservations. And this is something that I don't think people understand. And I think that this is sort of an epidemic in restaurants right now. It's lateness in general. So forget the 15-minute time period. Let's say that I have a 7 o'clock reservation and there are 4. We're a party of 4. Mm-hmm. 2 people in the 4 top show up at 7. And the other 2 people are not there yet. We don't know when they're going to be there. Maybe in the next 5 minutes, maybe in the next 20. We want to have a drink at the bar first, but our reservation is at 7.
Right.
So talk me through how this can be a mess and how it should be handled. Because what I don't think people understand is that when you are incomplete and late for a reservation, just because 2 out of 4 of you are there on time, you're incomplete. You're actually not there on time. And so that throws such a monkey wrench in, and I want you to talk about that.
Okay. So I think there are 2 versions of this.
Tell me.
Personally. I would say the first version is it's, I don't know, a Monday or a Sunday night, we're not overbooked.
Right.
I have plenty of tables available. I know I'm not going to fill up and lose tables for reservations. So if you have a reservation and 2 out of 4 or however many out of how many show up, I will seat you if my table's ready, and I know that I'm not going to need it again.
Right. Right. See, guys, this is all the behind the scenes stuff.
Right.
This is important. Right.
However, let's say,
However, if it's a Thursday.
yeah, it's a Thursday
Yes.
to Saturday night, the busiest
Right.
nights of the week.
And not just in Manhattan, by the way, guys, anywhere in the country. Wednesdays, Thursdays, these tend to be like the busiest days in restaurants, of course, and Saturday nights. Right.
So let's say it's one of those nights. And 2 out of 4 show up on time.
Right.
However, I'm overbooked. Not only am I fully booked, we're probably overbooked because the people that do the reservations expect a certain amount of drop off in a night because, you know, plans change, people don't show up.
People get sick, they get caught at work. Right.
Sometimes we overbook things in advance in just thinking that people are not going to show up, but we'll still have a full house.
Right. So now, just so you guys know, usually in the restaurant industry, we say about a 10% drop off every night.
Yeah.
It's about accurate.
Common.
Right.
It's very common. So 2 out of 4 show up. I'm overbooked. I can't seat the incomplete party, even though you have a reservation, because I don't know when the other 2 people are coming. And it's very common for guests to, I don't want to call it lying.
Right. But they maybe extend the truth a little.
Right down the street. And then, 20 minutes later, the other 2 people walk in. And it's such a common thing. And then I've given this table away when I could have given it to a complete party that was all here on time. So it's really hard to seat an incomplete party when you have a fully booked reservation book and you don't know when the other half of the party is going to show up.
Right. And the reason for that is because it throws a monkey wrench later into the night. So now what happens is you start to back up.
If I give it away and you aren't complete until, let's say the rest of your party doesn't show up until 7:30 and I've given you the table, then there's nothing happening at your table. You maybe have 2 drinks on the table, but your menus are still down. You've waited for the rest of your party. The server isn't able to get the order in until 7:45.
Right.
I needed that table back at 8:30. Your entrees don't hit until 8:30.
No, you're about 40 minutes behind schedule now.
So now you've backed up my whole night, which is why I can't do that, because I'm throwing myself under the bus if I do that. Because then I have not just one angry table if I didn't seat you. So it'd be one angry table at me. I have 10.
Right. And so this is really important for you guys to understand. Again, this is all the behind the scenes stuff that happens that you guys don't see, is that, so she's just describing one table, right? But imagine this happens for several tables all night long, every night at every restaurant around the country. And so if that 7 o'clock table is late and it was rebooked for 8:30 or 9 o'clock, the people who are there at 8:30 or 9 o'clock who were on time now have to wait because the 7 o'clocks were inconsiderate, late, couldn't get there on time. And now the 8:30s and 9s are backed up to closer to 10. Kitchen closes at 10:30. So now you have people at the end, people don't necessarily want to eat at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
And for you being late, you've just ruined the experience of several people, backed up the kitchen, backed up the bar, backed up the servers, all because you weren't on time.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand that. I think that they think, well, I have a reservation. It's not my job to worry about how they do everything. But we want to give everybody a good experience.
Right. And I think it's really uncommon. I've always thought that honesty is just the best. Being forward and being honest, polite and kind. I used to, when I was a bar, it's a huge restaurant. That restaurant had a 250 seating capacity.
At Chef Mark Murphy's restaurant. Yeah.
Yes.
And he had several restaurants at the time.
Yes, he did. Yes. But this was the flagship, and it was very popular. Where it was located was very easily accessible for a lot of people, and it would get crazy. People would wait for an hour, for a table, and it's just really, I learned very quickly that it was very important when people were angry that I wouldn't seat them incomplete, why? I'd be like, I understand your frustration. Like, I know you have somewhere to be, and I'm very sorry. However, if I give you this table, I need it back in this amount of time. And sometimes I would even say, I can seat you right now, but you have to be up in an hour.
Right. And would they actually, I know they'll say okay because they want the table, but would they actually be out in an hour?
They would say okay. I would go to the server. I would also tell the server, they have agreed they have to be out in an hour, so I need you to be on top of it. Like,
right. Don't drop dessert menus, perhaps, if the kitchen's running behind, whatever.
Talk at a time about it. Like, drop the dessert menus with the actual menus, get everything together, and then just bang it out.
Bang it out.
So and
yeah, go ahead.
I would make a note for myself to like go and check on the table 15 minutes before I needed it. And I would just go and I would, ask how everything was. I'm so glad. I just want to let you know if I need it in about 15 minutes, and I'm really sorry to rush you, but this is what
we agreed to. So now here's where it gets interesting for me. So you have a 7 o'clock foretop, 2 of them there, 2 aren't. You don't know when they're going to be seated. At what point do you give the table away, even though half of the party is there, or you don't? Because this is where I can see both sides of the coin. On one hand, 2 of them are there, so you're going to have to seat them at some point.
Right.
But if you give the table away, then they're going to say, well, we were here. We did check in. Why would you give the table away? So how do you balance that? At what point do you say, I'm going to seat you incomplete, or I'm giving the table away with half the party there?
Okay.
Because that's tricky.
Right. I would say if 2 people show up on time.
2 people are on time. 2 people are not there yet. We don't know when they're coming.
I would go with the 15-minute grace period for the other 2 people. And if they don't show up, I would go to the people that are available, or I
can give you a deuce.
In reality, I'm probably not going to them. I'm probably sending another host to talk to them because I can't leave where I am. But
true. Maître d' can't, right?
Someone to let them know that is the rest of their party here? Great, we'll seat you. If they're not, I have to give the table away. If you wouldn't mind calling your guests and telling them to get here as soon as possible, we will try and get you in the next available table as soon as possible.
Right. And how does that go over?
It depends on the people. Some people are very understanding because they get it. They're like, yeah, I get it.
Our friends are late, right?
Right. Some people are not so understanding. They don't understand why they were here. They should be able to sit at their table. But in their mind, they made that reservation. That is their table. Like,
exactly. So if they push back, do you seat them?
It's a case by case.
You and I both know the answer.
It's a case by case.
We both know the answer. We both know the answer is yes.
It depends.
For the most part. And that's the unfortunate part about this business is if you're super nice about it, we'll bend over backwards. Like, go to the bar, I'll buy you a round of drinks. Or like, but if you're
appetizers,
if you are a total dick about it, unfortunately, in this business, the bigger fit that you throw, most of the time people will cave because they just don't want to deal with you being a dick. And they'll be like, fine, sit down. But you're not going to get the same experience. Not that everybody's not a pro, not that everybody's not going to treat you the same, but you're not going to get the same experience. Because now what the maitre d' has just told the managers, the servers, I almost just knocked you over. The managers, the servers, everybody is that, see that table? They need to be out in an hour, rush them. Unbeknownst to the guest.
Well, and also,
right.
You've also, because you've made a reservation on a social platform, I'm probably going to make notes about you as a person as well, just like as how you treated my staff, how you treated me, when we were not in the wrong, when your guests are the ones that are late.
Yep.
So then there's going to notes go under your name of like very rude, very hard to deal with, like
so great segue. Yeah.
Great
segue. So this is what a lot of you guys don't understand when you eat at a restaurant. Again, this is all the behind the scenes stuff that no one ever talks about. Open Table, Resy, all of these online reservation systems, even Yelp now has a reservation system, right? The restaurant, at the bottom of your name, there's a little box and it'll say guest notes. And that is just for the restaurant's use, right? So if I was going to eat at Hannah's restaurant that she's the maitre d' at the bottom of my name, just at her restaurant, it's not like all restaurants nationwide can see it, just that restaurant. you can have notes. Now, every restaurant I have ever worked in, we have codes. We're not going to be obvious and say this person was a dick, because usually when you come to the host stand, the maitre d' stand, whatever it is, the computer screen is situated in a way that you can probably see it, right? And so every restaurant talks in code. I'm only going to give away codes from a restaurant I've worked in that is no longer in existence, because I don't want to wake up tomorrow and there'll be a fish on my doorstep. You know what I mean? Like, you can't give away the codes. So if someone was a real dick, the code for that would be peach. So if someone saw the word peach under their name, they wouldn't know that it was, oh, this guy's a real asshole.
Right.
Right. And so there are things like that. And so let's dive into this, because I think people need to understand that guest notes can be used for them and against them. So let's talk about how it can be used for them to their benefit.
Okay.
So I come in, I'm on time, I'm a great guest, I tip appropriately, I tip on the bottle of wine I ordered, and I'm just a normal, nice person having a great experience. What are the notes?
Very lovely. Please accommodate whenever you can. Things like that. Send an extra dessert from
next time they come in, right?
Or things like that. We always want those people back, so we're going to do everything we can to accommodate them, keep them happy, and keep them coming in the door.
Right. Now, on the flip side, the people who are real assholes, as we have both just discussed, we're going to make notes for them as well. Peach, or they were very belligerent, even though their party was late, things like that. And so the reason this is important, guys, is that if you call or go to Open Table, sometimes a lot of restaurants, really busy, really successful restaurants, in Open Table or Resi or any of the systems, they will block off sections of reservations, and it will say, please call the restaurant. So now you have to call the restaurant and talk to a reservationist to host a maitre d'. As they're talking to you, they're going to pull up your name in their system, and they're going to see the guest notes. So you want to come on a Saturday night at 7:30 at night, which is prime time, and they're going to see that you were a dick the last time you were there. Guess who's not getting the reservation?
You.
Yes, exactly. I'm so sorry, we're fully booked that day, but I can give you 5 o'clock. So I'll happy to give you a 5 o'clock reservation. Nobody wants to come eat at 5 o'clock. Right. So that's a way to deter those horrible people. And again, this is tricky, because it's not that we don't want your business. We can't stay in business if you don't come, but we're also not going to reward bad behavior. Right. And then also, guest notes are helpful if you have special needs in some way. If you're allergies, restrictions, if you're on a special diet, if you're a very, very tall person. We had another restaurant I worked in. The gentleman was like a basketball player. He was like 7 feet tall. And so we would just put a note in that said tall, which indicated to us, okay, he needs not a tiny table. We need to make sure that he has room to groove. And right. And so it's really important for everyone to understand that how you behave in a restaurant is noticed, even if you think it's not.
Absolutely.
It is documented and it is referred to.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree? Yeah.
If you're like a regular of a place and we know you really, really well, there'll even be notes about you brought your family in on this day, or we noticed that you were celebrating your birthday on this day. So we'll even put your birthday into the we know, so that, I don't know, if you come back next year for your birthday, we're able to send you a piece of cake with a candle on it and just add that extra special.
You're right. That's part of service and hospitality. I mean, how many times have we gone to a guest and as they've been seated and been like, oh yeah, I'll bring you that Chopin martini. And they look at you like, how the hell do you remember that I like Chopin martinis? Because we make notes.
Yeah, we do that.
And it's like these little fairies that go around and we remember and communicate with our staff. And so that gives you the best experience possible. Wouldn't you agree?
Right. Absolutely. Like, there's even been times when I'll put in, hates tap water, please have sparkling. Like, don't even ask, just take sparkling.
Don't even ask. Right. Yeah, exactly.
And that makes
that's perfect.
It makes the guest experience so much better, because they don't, sometimes it's funny because sometimes they don't notice and then they're like, wait, I didn't ask for water. You're like, oh, you didn't have to. We know you. You're good.
Yeah, yeah. I got you.
Like, that's what it is. We got you.
Right. And that the thing about that is if you are a regular at a restaurant and you're not getting that kind of service, then you need to ask yourself if this is the kind of establishment you really want to be a regular in. Because
Right.
you should, if you are a regular and you're consistently spending money in this establishment, you should be treated like royalty.
Right.
As long as you're not a dick and entitled. That's the flip side of it. If you're a dick and entitled, we'll be nice, but we're not going to go overboard. But if you're a genuinely nice person and you love the food, the atmosphere, the cocktails, the service, the people, we should be bending over backwards to make sure you come back, you bring your family, your friends, your colleagues, everybody.
Right. I think it should be noted too, though, this isn't just like, oh, be nice to the maitre d' because they're underrated in a restaurant.
No, you should be nice to be nice. Yeah.
Right. Be nice. Like just be calm. And it's just, it's just food. Like sometimes mistakes happen. And it's just a table. I know sometimes people think it's this high prime real estate, and I don't want to sit in that table. That table looks like it's not a good table. I want that table over there because that table looks better. It's a table. It's the table that I have. I'm sorry, like that's what I have. So
yeah.
Or you wait. I don't know. But I think it's really important to be nice to the service staff as well, because they come back to the maitre d' and they will tell the maitre d', this person was terrible. They sent back everything. Nothing was right. Like talked to me like I was, a slave.
They touched me. That's a big thing. We'll get into that at another point. Yeah.
We will make notes in under your name in open table if that is a thing that you do. So it's not just be nice to the person that's making the notes. Just be nice to everybody, because more than likely it's gonna get back to the person that's making the notes.
Right. And that, as you know, that's my favorite quote from Dave Barry. And he has always said, a person who is nice to you and not nice to the waiter is not a nice person.
Right.
And I'm telling you, no truer words have been spoken. You're dead on. It's a table. If you're going to a restaurant to be seen, then, you need to, we all get that, especially working in Manhattan. We totally get that. We've been in those restaurants. We've worked in those restaurants. But this is the table we have. Do you either want to be here or not? Like, there's only so much we can do, and you being a dick about it isn't going to make anybody's experience better. Right? And at the end of the day, you're right. It's just food and booze. Like, everybody chill.
I mean,
just be nice.
Booze, but
right. I mean, but it's not brain surgery. Like, we're not curing cancer. I'm just going to seat you at a table. Just be cool about it.
Well, right. And you're there with your friends or your family. Enjoy yourself.
Or exactly.
About where you're sitting.
Well, that's a podcast for another day. All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Hannah Rose. Thank you, everybody. Big round of applause for Hannah Rose for talking to me. Yeah, thanks for helping break down, because I do really think that the maitre d's and the hosts and the reservationists are something that a lot of people don't really understand about the interworkings of restaurants. And I think this is a great behind the scenes look at why it's important to, be on time, what that can do to the restaurant, and how your behavior can really make or break your experience in the present and in the future. Yeah. So thank you so much. I am Krista Lepore for Turning Tables. If you have any questions about anything Hannah and I talked about today, you can find both of us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at Krista Lepore, at Hannah Rose. Tweet at us any questions, comments, concerns, and I will see you on the next episode of Turning Tables. Cheers.